What's happening, guys? My name's Austin, and thanks for tuning in for the third episode of the DevvE Weekly Roundup. Davin, how are you, my friend?
Not too bad, mate, and thanks for having me again. Apologies, I do have hay fever, so if I do look like I'm about to sneeze, then I might mute myself, and we'll just carry on like it didn't happen.
Well, I stayed up way too late last night, and I ate Thai food, and if I eat Thai, this happens. So also, it's a holiday here in the U.S. I have 4 kids running around my house. So if you hear screaming, it's not a ghost. It's just one of them. So, all right, let's get into it. So I thought you and I were talking before this episode started. You kind of brought up a really good point and the kind of overall crypto sentiment. And I think instead of doing what is the tendency to do, which is kind of dance around and ignore it, why don't we kind of go head on into the reality of what crypto looks like right now and maybe how that affects DevvE just from a public standpoint.
Yeah,
and we can dig into some of the facts on that. So obviously, everything's beholden to Bitcoin right now, and Bitcoin has been ranging since, I want to say May, April, maybe March. It's been a long time. And being that DevvE is a new project, naturally, it's going to probably have one of the greatest effects over a project like DevvE, at least from a public perspective. And while we're kind of building out this pipeline of deal flow and various things that are being worked on, a lot of this is still behind the curtain. And so rightly and naturally, some folks in the Telegram group have had, some questions because obviously, when things start happening on the chart, people get antsy and they're like, oh, is this real? Is this really going to happen?
Yeah, no, I understand.
One question I thought that would be great to dive into is somebody had asked about Runway for our project. And kind of where we sit with that. And I was hoping maybe you could speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that most people who have been involved in or around DevvE for a while now will understand is that we're a multi-year project, right? We're not something that's looking to be an overnight success. We're not hoping to kind of 10x or 100x our price, or none of that is part of our core strategy in terms of how we move forward, right? How we fund what we're doing, right? It's not, none of it's beholden to any of those pieces. We are and have consistently built and managed a treasury that will allow us to get to each of these kind of multi-year milestones. So part of that is the build out of the technology and that first phase, the expansion of that into the gaming side, which is what Tom and the DevvE guys have managed really successfully. Then obviously with Ray, myself, and the team moving into the DevvE side and looking at our long-term plan around, the value of DevvE around as a value transaction or a value transfer mechanism, the exchange and all of those other pieces, we recognize that they have to be supported and funded. And so a big part of what we've planned for is the management of our treasury to support each of those different activities. And along the way, we have revenue opportunities. We have opportunities with some of the technology deployments, some of the deals that we've talked about in the past, and the deal flow that's on the table. Each one of those will bring in revenue, but revenue is not the only source of funding for our project. There's been a lot of bootstrapping, a lot of private investment. There is actually investment on the table at the moment around each of these various different elements that will give us the runway effectively to be able to support through the next phases of this, what is a multi-phase piece of work. And from a company point of view, we are, it's a long-term play. Like we've had this conversation a lot, but and again, I know people need to hear it. There's nothing about what we're trying to do here that is a market play. It's not a crypto market play. It's not we're not trying to imitate any of the successes of and probably rightly earned successes of other L1s or layer zeros or projects in the crypto space. We recognize that they all have a place. And we recognize that they're all serving a purpose and they're all generating their own kind of unique market demands and other, what we're trying to do is build a solution that enables the Web 2 and the Web 3 worlds to connect in a way that makes sense for everybody. So we bring that value, we share that value, we enable that value transfer. And there's a huge opportunity for that, whether it's us, whether it's other projects, everyone's working towards this kind of, the crypto space is big, the real world space is bigger. And there are multiple layered opportunities that sit on top of that unlock new value that nobody's really even thought about. So we sit in that space, and in order to fund that, And in order to forward fund that, we've had to do some very serious kind of, evaluation around how we manage our treasury and what that looks like over a long term. So in terms of how we support the project, it's not kind of a hand to mouth exercise. It's not where, we're relying on funds from, token sales and all of that sort of thing. It's about how we manage what we have with what we know is kind of, like any other business. And we are at a point where, revenue will unlock, and we are at a point where, further investment will unlock, that will allow us to get to those next tranches. And it's just a juggling act that anyone in any business would be really aware of. But at the same time, it's not something that's a huge concern for us. There are many other concerns that we have that revolve around taking advantage of these kind of huge, unique market advantages that we can deliver before somebody else comes in and sees that as an opportunity to, so there's a lot of delicate negotiations going on. There's some very, very cool and unique opportunities that are far more important to us or far more kind of urgent in terms of our focus than, looking at, short-term or long-term runway at the moment. That's being handled, and we're confident with how we're handling that.
Wonderful. And so just to summarize that real briefly, so the whatever happens in the market is really not an effect on the runway of DevvE necessarily. Am I correct to say that?
Yeah, we're not selling tokens. We're not doing anything with our token supply to support the project. It's not a position that we have entered into. Our token for us is a value driver. It's a value driver for the people that own our token, that want to support what we're doing, but also for people that want to, and I'm not going to say speculate or trade around that, but they're people that want to take a position so that they can recognize and realize that value around the business opportunities that support or that our technology will support and unlock. And that again plays into that wider piece that we've talked about around, the flywheel, but also around ESG and impact investment, positioning around the exchange and a bunch of other things. So how people choose to engage or hold or deal with their tokens is personal. It's completely up to them. There are obviously businesses taking positions, etc. People will buy, they will sell. We have no control over that. But us as a team, we're not. That's not part of our strategy. That's not something that we're kind of working in any way, shape, or form on or around. And to further that, I think we've managed the token unlock process, to the best of our ability. And obviously, the market is what the market is, and obviously everybody's seeing kind of as you said, Bitcoin related declines, and generally across the board, you have the odd green day, but everything is kind of and I get it. I'm in the space as well, so I understand what people are feeling when they're looking at price points and market positions, not just with us, but with every project that they're probably involved in. It's really, really hard. The crypto roller coaster is worse than anyone that's bought Microsoft shares or is looking at kind of equities plays or things like that, right? You kind of see a 1 cent kind of rise or fall in a share price, and it's panic stations, right? Whereas in crypto, you're seeing these kind of huge volatile shifts. And what you have to look at then, and again, people will say this, and this is not a trading advice or any, kind of advice at all, but the zoomed out view of where you see value in what you're supporting and how you're getting involved in each of these different, projects that you're involved in, it has to be related to how you view the value, in a long-term kind of point of view, rather than how you see the short-term tradability. Because if you're doing that, you'll have a heart attack and you will die, right? You will see so many kind of, it's not healthy for anyone to look at, that kind of, dynamicism in a market and try and catch that or work off of that. Because, I mean, for God's sakes, that's the recipe for disaster. So we understand, we've managed our token distribution, fairly responsibly. We believe that, in line with all of our promises, all of the early investors, the unlocks and everything else, we've managed to the best of our ability. I mean, it has had a depreciating, effect on price, but to be fair, it hasn't been as bad as it could have been. But it's also been, a long process. And so that will conclude. We will have, all of our early investors, vesting periods, and everybody else will be, all wrapped up by the end of next month. And, our supply will be what our supply will be, and market demand will drive what market demand will drive. And we will do our best to support that on the other side with all of the business drivers and kind of utility and values that we're kind of bringing in.
So so on the market side, we've got that. Now I want to kick over just a little bit. So we've got the token unlock completing or, culminating here fairly soon. And I don't think it's any secret that people know we're working on, a bunch of big deals in the back end, and that those will have some news events that we, obviously we can't say when those are going to happen. But one question I did want to ask, and I know that this is happening because I've been in the conversations, is what is the kind of thinking around the overall marketing strategy that's going to be coming? Meaning, we're dropping a piece of news. Okay, great. But what are we thinking from a marketing standpoint on how we really want to launch this thing off once the time comes?
It's funny because I know you went on the whip this morning, but this is a topic of conversation that that is taking up a little bit of brain space in the core team at the moment. And one of the things I can say for certainty is we are in a very enviable position that we have a lot of news. We have a lot of big news that we will be releasing. But as I've kind of said in the past, we're not a news hype news sort of kind of project. It's not what we're building and what we're delivering is not based around the idea of let's tease a kind of release or let's tease some news. We want to have all of these things in place, and we will have deals signed. We will have flows and kind of plans that kind of work around that. So what that's going to mean is that there will be some joint press releases. There will be more that will come from that, but there will be key drivers around kind of utility. There'll be key drivers around what this will mean in terms of how the token is supporting these actions and activities, and there will be some cadence around education and so not just from a marketing kind of communications point of view, which is where obviously you'll be heavily involved, but from a broader marketing and awareness piece, there will be advertising campaigns, because there will be things that will obviously benefit some of our third parties and their customers that we're willing to create awareness around. So you will see this kind of wider reaching pieces that support press releases, and again, how you deploy a campaign is very dependent upon the outcomes that you want. So what we're trying to do, and again, anyone that's familiar with us will know that it's probably very frustrating at the moment, because we're probably one of the best projects that nobody's ever heard of. And there's reason for that, right? Because again, back to our kind of management of treasury and careful kind of budgeting around how we get to where we get to, we're not in the same league as a layer one that has 150 million, 200 million treasury that they're sitting on, that they can afford to waste a couple of hundred million, or not a couple of hundred, but waste $2 or $3 million on large scale sponsorships and advertising campaigns just to create awareness. Or we want to go out and find a major sporting event and catch maybe 2 seconds of news coverage so that our logo or banner is kind of featured. I'm not saying that won't come, by the way. That is something that will very much feature around where appropriate and when appropriate. But we are being very, very responsible, I think, in terms of how we manage our runway and treasury. And that doesn't include us being able to waste hundreds of thousands of dollars on these large scale branding campaigns in a market where there's very little upside to that outside of making people feel good very briefly. Once we have what we have in the pipeline signed, sealed, and in place, the campaign will build around that, and it will very quickly point back to the fact that these things are happening now. So if you want this product or service, you want the ability to actually use this or leverage this, here you can take action. This is an immediate kind of self-gratification. So the advertising and marketing campaigns will have a purpose. They will drive value, they'll drive traffic, they will drive customers, they will drive awareness, and we will be able to amplify on that. So just generally speaking, our marketing campaigns, outside of things that we're doing with the ambassadors, which again is just amazing, will kind of begin at a grassroots level. We'll center around some of these larger pieces of communication. We'll then have a kind of a larger media sort of presence and or advertising kind of approach, and they will all feel back to where we kind of launch from the product and other pieces. So the website will play a crucial role in that. And again, there's a wide range of things that we're trying to get into place at the moment to support that.
Now, am I right to say, just based on what you just said, that when we look at we'll call them news cycles or information drops or what have you, we're not just looking at widest reach. We're not just looking at most effective reach. We're looking at, is the DevvE infrastructure ready to handle what's going to come as a result of that?
Exactly, because anything else is kind of vanity. And we're not a vanity project. We're not trying to support a large amount of VC capital or other people that want to see, or want to be reassured because their name is on the side of a building or, any of that. And that's fine. If you've got a large, again, sort of treasury to burn and your business model revolves around that kind of visibility because you're competing in a market where you need to be that, or those visible brands. We are more concentrating on direct business drivers. We're not a loss leader business. We're not a kind of dangle a carrot kind of business. We're not a talk about something that's maybe going to happen. That's not us. We are, here it is. You want it, let's buy it, let's sell it. And this is how the promotion of those things work. And if you look in any other market, right, this, again, it's not, none of this is new or unusual or groundbreaking. I mean, it is the fundamental kind of business and communication strategies that support, any of the products or services that you have in your daily lives now. And it's just amplification of that. And it's really about then the average of, the cost per acquisition of users, the cost per acquisition or the CPC around, visibility. It's digital. It's all of the channels that you're talking about. It's promotion, sponsorship, events. We will build the brand, and we will have a very different market outlook once those pieces are in place. I can't ask people to wait. I can't ask people to have faith. I'm not going to say trust us. What everybody does is up to them, and there's 100 different great personal reasons why you would buy or sell or do whatever. This is not a pitch to token holders, but it is just saying that this is our process. We're being very clear and transparent around how we manage what we manage, how we do what we do, and we're trying to do it in a way that gives people reassurance that we are a real business. We're not doing this because of some strange ulterior motive in the crypto space. We're doing it because we know that what we've got is kind of a fundamental shift in both the tech space and the capabilities of blockchain technology.
Beautiful. And by the way, for anyone watching, this is exactly how you want this to be handled. It's not, so, all right, again, 4 kids. I have a lot of kids. The 5th on the way, by the way. Thank you. And I had to learn how to be a parent. My wife, she was just born being a good mom. I kind of had to learn how to be a parent. I mean, when my older 2 were little and they wanted something, I was like, yeah, sure, here, just take it.
Have it. Yes, exactly.
It makes you quiet. I mean, go for it. Absolutely. And she said, no, that's not how good parents parent. You gotta know what's good for the long term, and you've got to take action that's going to be beneficial long term, not just for what's good right now. And it, not that we're parents or anything like that, but that's kind of what I'm relating this to.
I couldn't agree more. We had a very similar conversation with my wife recently, and it's not that our parenting styles differ. We just do things very differently. But one of the things that I've said constantly is if you enable the kids to kind of solve their own problems, or you support them, you love them, you help them, but you let them solve their own problems. Because if you don't, there will come a time when they don't know how to solve a problem, or they don't know how to and that could be anything from, simple chores or tasks to, making yourself lunch or whatever it is, right? And so, whereas it's easy for her to just say, I'll do it, because again, like your wife, apparently she's a great mom. And, but for me, it's like, no, hang on. If I do that for you every day, then that's not helping you. That's stopping you from actually learning how to do those things. And I'm not saying that we have to help, our community learn or the parallel there is not, not necessarily that, but we are taking a very kind of measured and responsible approach to how we do what we do. It would be fundamentally very different if somebody came up to us tomorrow with, a huge sack of cash and said, just no strings attached, go for it. Yeah, of course, that would change what we do. The things that we're working towards will involve that reward. They will involve that investment. That will involve that revenue. That will, and we are building responsibly towards all of that. And that, I think, is the only way you can do something like this. It's not, if we'd have wanted to take that external investment with all of the strings attached that would have come with that, it would be a very, very different business. And you would have seen, again, a very different approach to how we go to market. It would have been very constrained around key verticals. It would have been, very much focused on where we can steal market advantage, where we can turn immediate revenues into, uplift. And that's not what we're about. We want to do this in a way that allows and unlocks benefits for everyone that's with us. So I've been approached multiple times, and you know this, but community members will come up with ideas and concepts around where they see the value in the technology to say, hey, look, I want to start a business around this. I really think that this is something that I can do that will unlock, value for me, that I can do with partners, etc. That's what we want, right? We don't want to then, enrich a bunch of people that are already very, very wealthy, or just give corporates an opportunity to, enable huge cost savings and make more money for themselves and shareholders. We want to try and unlock value for everybody. Those other things will happen as a proxy of what we're doing. But at the same time, we want to be able to unlock that value for everybody so that everybody that comes with us on that journey immediately, the benefit for us from a, just an ambassadorial or a kind of an advocacy point of view is so strong. We've already seen the benefits of that with our community. I mean, it's just amazing how many people at such a high caliber of kind of, person as well. Like all of the people, I would say with no exception, that I've come across in our community are high caliber. They're people that have had careers. They're people that understand exactly what, what we're talking about. They can talk at, at a high level around what the opportunities mean. And all of those people are the right customers and or supporters and or beneficiaries of what we're trying to deliver. So, again, that's kind of why we're doing what we're doing.
Beautiful. And at the risk of going over, because we're gonna, but that's okay. I do want to close this out with, can we talk about at least kind of maybe a little bit where we're at with the sovereign state stuff? Because I do know that's,
I don't have a lot more news than I had last time, unfortunately, because it is a public holiday in the US. There's a little bit of we are waiting for follow-ups and news and things to come back via that channel or via your side of the world at the moment, which will have an impact on what we can tell or say. But we are expecting responses this week, so that may or may not determine the next flow of news or the next output of But regardless, we are going to know a lot more, I'd say, by the end of this week than we did or do now. So I can't say anything else. I really wish I could. Again, we've got some very exciting meetings coming up. We've got some very exciting kind of follow-ups that are happening. It's a great time to be doing what we do, and we're really, really excited about it.
See, the problem is we're shooting this on a Monday instead of Beer 30 on Fridays, and I couldn't squeak one out of you. That's okay. That's all right.
That is true, and that again is my fault. But no, I appreciate the flexibility, and yeah, for anyone watching, apologies. I'll be more tired next time, I promise.
Well, and one thing I do want to kind of cap us with is it may sound like we're touching on similar subjects every week, but I think we're trying to paint a picture for you guys, and we're trying to paint it in a way that maybe we come at it from different directions, but it may make different sense to different people because the message is going to be really personal to everyone listening to it. And so, if you've never experienced this sort of a thing before, or if this whole paradigm that Ray was talking about, you just kind of aren't grasping it, I would encourage you to dive into the information that we're putting out, because it is fairly comprehensive in the ways in which this can go. And because there are so many different verticals at play here, it is admittedly a very large message. And so keep on keeping on with the information that we're putting out. It's happening. It's happening, guys.
It's happening. It's definitely happening. And again, just, from an ops point of view, we're scaling resources. We are looking at, again, the right mix of people, the right places. We are very lucky in terms of, what we have, the capabilities that we have, and the positioning that we're in. It's really just now a case of the final 5% of a lot of these things just need to get to, a point where we can close them out and move on to the next thing. Because again, the next thing is just as good as this, and we have a lot more in that, again. So it is just a genuinely very, very exciting time.
Amazing. Davin, thank you so much for your time, my friend. I hope the hay fever improves. And that's it. My name's Austin. Thanks for tuning in, guys. DevvE Weekly Roundup number 3. We're getting out of here. We'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.